8.1 FM and AM 1220.
The following is sponsored programming and does not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Welcome. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM, because that's the way you say it. Is that right, Mr. Engineer?
Yes, sir, it is. Brien.
You're listening to the Ask Brien Network, the Ask Brien radio show. And today, as in every day, when we have the Ask Brien radio show, you'll learn something about business. The Ask Brien radio is part of the Ask Brien website, ASKBRIEN. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. I thought you were like falling asleep. Maybe you need my coffee. I have an iced coffee. You want one of these?
I'm good, sir. I'm good.
You need some caffeine. I don't know what's going on. And what does the E in Ask Brien stand for?
All right, Brian. Well, you know what we have.
Don't look at your Cliff Notes.
I'm not looking at anything.
You are looking
We
at your
have
Cliff Notes.
expert, empathy, effort, and, of course, who could be forgetting excellence? And also engineer. But that one's for me.
If you are on the Ask Brien website, you can qualify to become a what?
An expert.
You have been trained well.
I have learned from the master, yes.
Yes, I'm going to give the dog another biscuit.
Oh, come on.
Paching. Where's your, you don't have any tools, whatever. Where's your ding, ding, dong? Okay, let's go. Anyway, for people who have never listened to the Ask Brien radio show, we are part of the Ask Brien website, and that's ASKBRIEN.com. Now, Ask Brien basically is a website that allows people to ask and answer business questions within their own industry. So if you happen to be a pizza owner in New Orleans, Louisiana, and a pizza owner in North Dakota, you may have to deal with the same type of issues. We're not talking legal issues generally. We're talking about same business issues. What do we do? You know, it's getting cold out. It's getting hot out. You know, what's the best way to preserve the dough? We didn't get a delivery in. What are we going to do? Those type of questions from one pizza owner to another pizza owner can come up. That's where we have the Ask Brien business community, where we have like-minded industry owners asking and answering questions for other business owners. And then we have the crumb de la crumb. Where's your da-da-da-da-da-da? You know, you got to get your tools going here, pal.
All right, you know, I could get some tools. Give me a sec.
Well, you need to get some tools.
Find
All right.
some.
All right, well, wait. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. In the meantime, while the engineer finds his toolbox, we're going to go over...
Do you want a little drum roll?
Yes, I want a drum roll. Okay, that was it. Now that we have the drum roll, now we can talk about experts. So to become an expert on the Ask Brien radio show, Ask Brien website, how many hours do you generally need, Mr. Engineer?
About 50 hours, is it right?
10,000, but
10,000.
that's close. You're close, 50, 10,000.
50, 10,000.
So, like, when your paycheck comes, instead of getting $5,000, you get $4. It won't matter the difference, because to you, the difference between 50 and 10,000 is meaningless. Thank you. Okay, now that we got that out of that way, and I'll speak to the owners, see if we can get a reduction of 100% on your salary. After we discuss that, we'll go through that. But anyway, if you are an expert, if you do have 10,000 hours, you will generally qualify to become an expert. Why? Well, if you're working 50 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 50 hours, that's 2,000 hours per year, times 5 years is 10,000. After you generally have achieved 10,000 hours in one subject area, one item, you generally are focused enough to usually qualify as an expert, but there's no guarantee that you'll make it as an Ask Brien expert. And some people may only have 1,000 hours, but guess what? You know, they've done something really extraordinary and been recognized by society, and so they may be able to qualify with less than 10,000 hours. What does an expert do on Ask Brien? Well, Ask Brien is allowed to publish their videos, publish their blog posts, publish ebooks, and schedule webinars on the Ask Brien network for people and clients to use. That's what the Ask Brien network is all about. Now, the current co-host is, if you go out in your backyard and you keep digging all the way through to the other side of the world, you'll hit China, and that's where our co-host Lindsay Mann is located. She's on assignment. I don't know what she's doing. She's doing something over there. Not sure. I'm going to ask her for a fortune cookie next week. We'll see what happens. Now, my other co-host, who was very, very busy this week, as he is each and every week, because he works a ton of hours for little pay, like most of America does, and his name is Alex Grossman. Alex, are you there?
Mr. Brien Johnson, I am, of course, here. I'm a little scratchy in the throat after spending the week in lovely CES show in Las Vegas, Nevada, but really happy to be on the radio today with you and our special guest.
Well, forgetting about the little frog in your throat, not everyone knows what CES is. So, what is it, the Communist Economic System? What is CES?
Thank you, Bernie. Yes. No, that is the Consumer Electronics Show. It is the largest show in Las Vegas and the largest consumer electronics show in the world. And the funny thing about it is we call it the Consumer Electronics Show, but it's really industry only. So you get the cool, new industry things that happen for consumers, usually way before anybody else sees them. It's a really cool show. So 140,000 of my friends were there.
So it's bigger than the show Mystique?
A little bit. It's got almost the same audience as Ask Brien on a weekly basis. A little bit smaller, but very close.
Well, that's on a daily basis, maybe by the hour. So I'm not sure where you came up with that number, but we'll forgive you for that. But that time, because you've been in Vegas and you've been very busy. Anyway, and you were there on press for Ask Brien. Is that correct? You're supposed
correct.
to be. That's what the expense report said. But anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. I'm not as bad as Miss Lindsay Mann, but
Whoa! Go ahead.
But definitely looking for some of the greatest innovations for our business audience, and saw some really, really cool things out there. And, of course, for you, I saw the coolest thing there is.
Which is what?
Oh, of course, I didn't tell you. It's your new ride-on luggage scooters. So this is, I literally saw a dozen luggage carts that you could now ride on with a battery. They go up to 15 miles an hour and can go up to 10 miles. So forget that Uber getting to the airport. You get dropped off, 5 miles away. You just scooter over.
Wow, that is something unusual.
Yeah.
But without any further ado, and the engineer's going to spell ado.
Adieu.
And you know why I like that word?
Why is that, sir?
All those vowels.
I mean, you do have at least a good 3.
I'm only missing the O.
And sometimes Y.
And it's only, sometimes. Oi. O-Y.
Right.
Oi. Without any further ado, we have our guest, and his name is Ram. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And your last name?
Collision.
See how I got around that? Da-da-da-da-da.
Wow, Brien, that was smart. You're learning, huh?
And they say they can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Peter, I went back in time and I felt like I was going to jump back in the ring with the announcement.
Well, actually, that's very interesting. So, as everybody knows that has watched the show on a daily basis, weekly basis, or whenever, we start out each show with a Rocky theme. Why? Because we kind of like to energize our audience and get everything going, et cetera, et cetera. And we have a very interesting guest, and your background was in what?
Oh, well, pretty much everything.
But you had some background. It begins with a K and ends in a G.
So I used to be a professional Thai kickboxer.
Wow.
I competed on a world-class level.
Can you use some of the moves on the engineer?
Right now we need him, so I'll wait till after the show.
We'll wait till the show's over.
Appreciate that, sir.
Then you'll be on the ceiling. But go ahead.
I started fighting pro since 16. I retired at 20.
That's a very long career.
Well, after 4 world titles, I felt like, I think I'm good.
You won a world title?
4 of them.
You won 4 world titles?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And, after enough damage, broken bones, and muscle injuries, tears, by that age, I felt like, okay, I need to stop beating up my brain and my body, and I think I'll have a longer life if I stop now.
Have you applied to become a Thai boxing, kickboxing expert on Ask Brien? Because I think you qualify, and you only have 4 years, but we allow you in probably. You don't need the 10,000 hours. Go ahead.
Well, about the 10,000 hours, we used to train day and night. It was a lot more hours than 8 hours on a day. So I think I may have accrued that many hours in 4 years.
Well, as I said, with 4 world titles, we probably would let you in because we probably have other aspects of that. Now, so what exactly is Thai kickboxing? You know, I know kickboxing, I know boxing, kung fu, taekwondo, whatever.
Well, Thai kickboxing it comes from Thailand.
Okay.
That's why, it's Thai kickboxing, and they.
So it's not TAE, it's THI.
Yes, THI, and it's some of the punches and kicks that you use. They're different, and you also incorporate elbows, knees. And there's a little bit of wrestling that is involved.
Engineer, why don't you come over here and I'm going to see if I go like that, what will happen?
I will.
And by the way, for people without a radio, that are on the radio that can't see this on Facebook Live, I just raised my elbow and just went like that.
That would, if
That'll probably hurt, like really, really bad, probably if it's my face.
And a trained elbow.
You have workers' comp? Oh.
I don't think he would remember.
At that point, I probably won't remember because I will probably have memory loss at that point.
Don't worry, I have Alzheimer's pills for you.
That's and we were just talking about the difference between being a professional boxer and a Thai kickboxer. The power that generates from an actual kick, with a Thai kick actually ends up being like a bullwhip. It multiplies because it ends up.
Well, don't you have that same type of kick in kung fu?
Kung fu does not have that whipped style of a kick. They have different types that are they do great damage, but it's a completely different style. And if you Google a Thai kick, you will see that there's a whip and there's an echo in the room that you will hear reverberate quite loud.
So what happens when you win? First of all, to win a title, how many people are competing? Is it 2 people and you just beat one person? Or
great question. Each organization is different. Like in UFC, Strikeforce, they all have their own different fighters and competition. You can have an organization that only has 2 fighters. You can have an organization that has 150. It just depends on the different.
But when you say world title, how many people are competing?
Well, at the time, I don't recall. This was years ago.
He beat up his brother and he won. Okay.
Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Now you need a lot of discipline to do any sport, is my understanding.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of discipline. So how many hours would you have to train for something like that? And how would you compare that to your business life and how you had to how that helped you out in your career?
Right. Well, the discipline is crucial to success. It doesn't guarantee it, but it's a very critical factor. And acquiring that discipline at such a young age gave me tools for today. And
how many hours per day did you typically train when you were in that 16 to 20 time period?
I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would go on my first workout, which is a run. And then after my running cycle, which took about an hour, then I would go into my first gym, which was at the Wild Cards Boxing Gym with Freddie Roach.
So were you going to school then?
I would actually go to school in between. So after my first workout, then I would go to college, and after college, then I would go to...
You were in college at 16?
No, at 18. I went to college. And then I would go to Wild Cards Boxing Gym there with Freddie Roach in Hollywood. And I would put in at least like 2 to 3 hours over there. And then afterwards, I would drive down to my next workout, which would be my Thai kickboxing coach in Cerritos at Peli Ferrar Academy. And
I'd be exhausted by the time I got to Cerritos between working out twice, running, and then driving all the way there. I'd be like, I'm done.
Yes. Well, it's at a young age, I had a lot of vigor and a lot more energy than today, so that worked for me.
Well, our engineer is very good at running to the donut store.
Oh.
Hey, easy, pal, easy.
Well, it depends which donut store.
Exactly.
I mean, it's got to be Yum Yum Donuts.
See, well, okay, well, you didn't even think about it. It was right away, so you needed to think a little bit longer.
Because he knew where he was going.
Hey, listen. Listen, the best donut place is Yum Yum Donut and Krispy Kreme, but Krispy Kreme's too far
I grew up in New York, and we had Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes.
We don't have that many of those over here yet.
No, they don't have too many.
Did they take the Dunkin' out from the Dunkin' Donuts now?
They don't. In fact, actually, they're one of the best coffees back east. And then they have that what's that one, Krispy Kreme or whatever?
Yeah, Krispy Kreme. That's there's the closest one out in Burbank.
You know, you seem to be an expert. Maybe you could qualify and ask Brien for donuts.
I mean, maybe. I mean, if
we only have one. The only person that we have right now for donuts and ask Brien is Homer Simpson. So you can be number 2. So getting back to, and I want to get on a little point. So after you won the 4 world championships,
right.
What did you do after that?
So after that, I went into the film industry, believe it or not. So while in college still, I started interning at Warner Brothers at their OES department, if I remember correctly, which is Office of Emergency Systems. And within the first...
So what is OES? What is the Office of Emergency Systems? I mean, the fire alarm went off, so you have to run, or paramedics got called, or...
It's interesting that if there should be, an event, a catastrophic event, Warner Brothers actually closes doors and operates like a city of its own. They have their own fire department, their own police force, and what our department...
But they have their own Ask Brien radio show?
Not yet.
Oh, that's coming. Go ahead.
It's coming. They'll have they actually know where to take should there be any bodies, where to take the bodies. Each department knows what to do with their emergency supplies. So basically what our office did was we trained each department to become an emergency warden. And how
many people work at Warner Brothers?
Oh, I don't know. It's a city. It's probably like 20,000 plus. I don't know.
Wow.
It's a great question. And I'm sure that changed since I was there.
And then what did you do after that?
So after that, then I went and I worked for a small rental company that was just beginning, and the founder had asked me to see if I can make anything of it. He was already ready to close it down right when it begun, and single-handedly I figured out how to run this business, and turned into a very successful multi-million-dollar business.
Now, when you say rentals, we're talking about equipment,
film equipment
rentals.
We rented anything from camera lenses to a sandbag, camera support systems, cranes, jibs.
And so you started that company when you were there. Their revenue was what was it when you started?
We did anything from like 3 to 5 a month.
5,000?
3 to 5,000 a month within the first 6 months, and then that's when the founder said, you know what, I'm going to close doors here. I'm going back to my old company.
So how did you make it into the millions?
So the first month I took it over, I basically never said no. I don't know how to say no. And whenever a customer would ask me something, I always made sure that I got it for them, or I helped them figure out how to get it. And word of mouth spread that there's somebody that's willing to work night and day, weekends, and more people just it's a very small industry. People know each other here.
So what did you do in the first month?
In the first month, I remember Paul Walker was my client at that month. So
wow.
I got Paul Walker in January of 2006. And he
rented a Porsche.
He was doing something in Hawaii. He was shooting. What was he shooting in Hawaii? He was doing some personal stuff over there with surfing, and he rented something like close to like 13,000, and then on top of that, I did an almost 13,000 myself in sales.
So you went from 3 to 5,000 to 25,000 right away.
Yeah, 26.
My engineer is saying I'm a peace-loving man.
I mean, you are. Come on.
You obviously don't know my foreign policy. Anyway, go ahead. But so that's quite impressive. Now, to take a business that's 3 to 5,000 that someone wants to close, to upping it up to $26,000 in the first month, and did the sales ever go below 26,000?
It never went below. We the next month we did mid-30s, and then mid-high 30s, and then 40s, and within the end of that year, by December, I was already in the mid-60s. I think we may have hit 70 that day.
So you were close to 800,000 from about 40,000.
Right. And by the end,
and that was all word of mouth.
It's word of mouth. It was no advertising, and it is a very small, as I said, very close-knit industry, and people talk. Once people talk, then you can have.
You must have talked to a lot of people.
Well,
How did you get Paul Walker?
You know what? He was. There was a store nearby. He just happened to be going there, and then he saw a rental company. Walked in and said, "I need this," which I did not have, and I did not know where to get.
And did you say, "No problem, I'll get it for you"?
I said, "Absolutely, I'll have it for you."
And did you call the engineer?
I said, "Okay, I'll get it for you. I'll figure it out." So I managed to figure out what he wanted and how to make sure I learned how to work it, because a part of it is explaining how to work these systems. So.
And how many years were you there?
By that time, I was already like 7 months there.
No, but how many years?
I was 3 years there total.
And your sales went from 50,000 to what when you left?
Oh, we were in the high. We went. The highest we did was 120. 120,000 a month.
So about 1.5 million.
Yep.
That's pretty good. We're going to be taking a break. We'll be right back.
And now a cooking tip from Keith Mowry from Bob's Country Meats. Everyone loves.
Man, you're on a roll there, Mr. Brien Johnson.
Especially on the barbecue.
Marinate overnight.
No, you're on a roll. It's fantastic.
And then put it on the other side, indirect
You're just going.
Take another 25-30 minutes, and they're good.
Chicken, tri-tip, pork chops, turkey, steaks, even exotic game
Yeah.
like buffalo and ostrich. The tastiest chicken in town.
It was pretty bad there, pretty bad.
On Soledad in Canyon Country.
You're going places, and College of the Canyons can help you get there. Registration is going on now for their spring semester, which begins February 10th. Take classes in Valencia, Canyon Country, or online. Need to update your professional skills? Enroll in their free career skill classes, many of which take less than 2 weeks to complete.
And you wrote a book, right? You wrote a book. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Whispers. Yeah. I write sci-fi, so I knew your name. Yeah. So it's really good. Oh, I always self-publish. I do a lot. Mostly it's alternate history stuff and futuristic stuff. I'll when we hook up on LinkedIn, I'll show you some of my stuff. Yeah.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families.
Well, it's really hard to have great characters in nonfiction unless you fictionalize the characters, which ruins the nonfiction aspect, right? And getting an ending in a nonfiction book is like the hardest thing in the world because the ending usually isn't great, right? So, yeah. No. Well. Yeah. It's way better when you can develop your own characters. And again, the hardest thing about it is getting through the middle of the book, in my opinion. Once you get past, you don't get lost in the middle, you're good. But I'm gonna write a fiction book where Mr. Brien Johnson over there, Peter, is an alien. He's an alien. Yeah. I know. I need to do that. That's true. I know. Hey, we need to. It's got to focus me, and we'll get it done. I sit around all day. That's my problem. Exactly. That's it. Yep. We compare ceiling art. It's on a story. Okay, so.
If you find issue with the IRS and they're threatening you, or you can't sleep at night,
we won't go there. It's all good.
Within 2 months, they save you $25,000.
So Aaron, this company, I'm really interested in this company because of the driver aspects of it, where it's going. Could be really huge. That market is blowing up. I know a little bit about that market. I've worked in the other side of it in autonomous vehicles and design of storage systems for autonomous vehicles and the cloud and other pieces like that. So I realize how big that is. If you really can master that, you know, until the grid comes in 40, 50 years from now, that's going to be required. Once the grid comes in, you know, all that's going to go away. But, you know, I don't know if we're all going to have implanted RFID tags or that's going to work. But, yeah, there's a lot before we get there, right?
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SUV may have the answers you've been waiting for.
Nope.
The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step.
Oh, he's a great marketeer. That's it. But yeah. In reality, he went live with most of the kill people. So yeah.
The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself.
Oh yeah.
The Way Out for help today.
Hometown, your hometown station.
There we go.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. That's the only way you can spell and, correct, Mr. Engineer?
That is absolutely correct, Brian. That's the only
And our co-host, Alex Grossman. I beat you to the punch.
Wow.
Rocky, Rocky, Rocky.
That's a Rocky intro.
I knew if I went slow, put him on the side, wasn't thinking, boom, knocked him dead. I want that from our guest because he's a Thai kickboxing champion. He kind of told me on the side how to handle that situation.
He's a quick learner.
And our guest, Aram.
Yes. So we were just talking about what I was doing after I left that company, and
that company was a rental company that you basically took from $4,000 to $5,000 a month to about $100,000 a month.
Yep.
And within the first month, you had already tripled the sales.
Yep. Yeah, it was a remarkable learning experience for me, and it really helped me out moving forward because I myself did not think that I was able to even attain that because I was a young guy. I never was in business. I was just a person that beat people up for a living.
Can you beat up the engineer? He's pretty beat up already.
I think you've already done enough of that.
Please don't. I bruised easy.
I'll get my violin out.
So afterwards, I felt that, you know what if I just get at least a couple more fights, and I'm already getting older, and I made the mistake of jumping in the ring right away afterwards, and I ended up breaking my leg. And in the time that I was in between recovery, I thought, you know what, why not write a book? And so I...
that's what I think, like I got a cold, I got the NyQuil going on. Oh, that's Alex, sorry. And, I'm going to write a book. What else can I do for a couple hours, right? Well, how long did it take you to write the book?
Well, in the process of, it was a 5-month recovery period and 2 surgeries, I was writing a nonfiction, which I bored myself to death, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a science fiction story instead. And so 3/4.
Is that how the character of the engineer came about?
I was heavily inspired.
Sci-fi.
Why, thank you.
And so I finished that within 3 months.
Hold on, you finished a book. And how long is this book?
This book, it's about 300 pages.
You wrote a 300-page book, 3 months.
About 300.
About 300 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. During time you were getting surgery on your leg.
Yes.
And you had nothing better to do, so you just said, "Hey, I'll write a 300-page book."
You know what the funny thing is? I was actually on painkillers the entire time, and so I was in immense pain. And painkillers really did a number on me.
So morphine's the way to go, guys.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
So in the
most artists are. Let's put it that way.
So
you wrote a book, Alex, didn't you? I'm sorry.
Yep. So afterwards, after I recovered, then I went and founded another company with some friends, and we manufactured tools for press machines.
Okay, so before we got there, I just want to spend about 30 seconds. How successful is this book?
I did no marketing. There's people that wrote some reviews on it. There's people that bought it on.
Was it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah.
What is the title?
Whispers.
Whispers.
Yeah.
Whispers.
I recommend you get it.
That's the way people want me to talk instead of saying the names. I'm going to go, Alex Grossman, my co-host. Lindsay Mann, my co-host. My Mr. Engineer.
That's the way you sound to me anyway. I've tuned you out to that point. We all have. All the listeners.
Did you say something? I was whispering. I couldn't hear you.
Well done.
That was quite the whisper he gave me. Now, what are these? You said you're doing something with press tools. Or what
yeah, we manufactured tools for press machines, and it's basically this thing that goes through, takes paper through a color. The color prints the color in the paper, and then the last part it actually cuts the outline of what basically the sticker would look like. It's a label, something that would be like an advertisement.
You created this yourself?
And the tool, yes, but not the press machine itself.
Okay, so you're kickboxing, you get injured, you take a business from $5,000 a month to $120,000 a month. Then you got nothing better to do. You get in some surgery, you write a book, and now you're into the
press machines.
So you don't get around at all, do you?
Well, if it's in my interest, then yes. I mean, I had no idea.
If you were millennial, you'd be on your iPhone like our engineer.
Yes.
Come on, Brien.
At that time, we didn't have any cell phones. I'm kidding.
We did, but they were only like a brick.
Yes.
or
you got to work out when you held
phone.
it.
Yeah, but it speaks right to the entrepreneurial spirit, right? It's what takes you now. I mean, believe me, writing a book is not easy. You have to dedicate time and effort, and you have to, there's certain personalities that can and certain personalities that can't. And people usually write books, fall into that entrepreneurial spirit, because once they get dedicated to go, they go get it done, right? And that's the only way to do it.
That's true. That's very true. And so, very well said, by the way, Alex. So afterwards, I decided, like, in the meantime, as I'm going back and forth commuting to my home while I was building this company, I had seen something that really pissed me off on the freeway.
Go ahead.
And it really changed. It really changed my life. And for the next several months, I was thinking about this one incident that.
So what did you see?
It was an accident.
And it wasn't an alien, right?
No. Well, it.
Because the only alien I know is in front of me with his iPhone.
There we
go.
ahead.
Ouch.
Engineer starts with an E, not an A. So alien is he would be an alien.
But he does have an E in it.
Thank you, Alex.
And it does start with Al, like Alex. So what did you see?
So I saw a motorcycle accident which could have been preventable had my technology been available. And
well, what do you mean your technology? You're riding, you're driving home from work one day, and there's a motorcycle accident. And it wasn't your technology.
Well, my technology wasn't available at that time.
Something comes into your head and you go, that could be avoided.
That could be avoided had we had the technology to avoid it. And it pissed me off because we have the capability of building something like that today, and it wasn't around. And because it wasn't around, I saw a fatality, which changed the lives of those two motorcycles.
How close were you to this accident?
I was a few cars behind them. Wow. They passed. They were lane splitting. They passed me by, and
California's the only state that has lane splitting.
They do. That's true. There's other ones that have once all the cars stop, the traffic stops, then they can split. But yes, ours is very peculiar. So nonetheless, for the next few months, I kept on thinking about this. Like, what can I do about this?
You have nightmares?
I wouldn't say nightmares. I was just it was a thought that kept on recurring in my mind.
Engineer, do you have any sleeping pills?
No.
Because he was having nightmares. I thought maybe you could help him out.
No, I actually don't need. I don't need pills to sleep. I sleep like a baby most nights.
Oh, some babies are crying babies.
No, I'm quiet actually.
So you're a sleeping baby, not a cry baby. Okay. Now.
So, since I was so emotionally invested into this, I decided to think about, okay, so how would I be able to do something about this? And the more I thought about it, the more the idea came, and I began to do some research on this. And it turns out that my solution wasn't available. They weren't.
What was your solution, if you can tell that? You don't have any NDAs or anything. Go ahead.
Oh, no, of course. No. So basically, to identify how to know when these objects are around you, to be.
But don't I have cars, for instance, right? And
Right.
when I'm backing out, they have cameras now, right?
Absolutely.
And also there are also things on cars nowadays when you're driving down the street, if you get too close, you know, it beeps, right?
If you get too close
to... Is that the same thing we're talking about?
Well, no, it's not. If you get too close to a leaf, whatever object that's around it, it'll tell you that there's an object around it. What mine does is something completely different, and in real time, it identifies specified objects, moving specified objects. So what mine does, it tells you exactly what you are not, whatever you're not able to see, and it tells you, okay, if there's instead of a car, it tells you there's a motorcycle. And it gives you advance notice. And so.
And how does that work? Because it's software based.
Well, it's both. It's hardware and software based. So the algorithm that we're able to create is able to. It's basically like a masterpiece. It's able to very neatly identify without lots of processing power. Or time, so it very quickly is able.
Well, it's got to be quick because if there's a motorcycle passing you, you might be too late.
You want it. So basically, the speed at which we identify and then differentiate and process is very, very lean. So all the way the code is written and the way the hardware and the way it interacts with hardware, which would be the sensors. And so this interaction, the way we've built this, some of it may be luck, some of it may be through lots of research and development, but we were able to build this and be successful at it. And so we've been running trials on this for the last 2 months, and our success rate is very high and it's very quick.
So I don't want to get into the details of this. And Alex, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, first I want to make a statement and a little question there. First of all, being a science fiction writer,
yes,
you do a lot of research. That's part of your job, right? I mean, you research things, you learn things, and you stretch things. I mean, think of things that have happened in the past. I mean, we go from, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, electric submarines came out 100 years after Jules Verne invented them. I mean, after Ed Bellamy looked at credit cards, was probably 100 years before a credit card came out. I mean, things come from that because of the research you do and where it happens.
Yep.
But this type of technology is so hot today because, we all know autonomous vehicles. We all want self-driving cars. I'm just pissed off that I don't have a flying car yet. I don't understand why. I'm really upset about that.
You've been lied to.
I mean, I've been lied to. Where's my flying car, darn it? Mr. Mueller, you promised me a flying car in 68.
I thought that was the Jetsons.
The Jetsons lies to us.
It's true. And who's the dog in the Jetsons? Come on.
Ruh-roh.
I know who it is.
Come on.
It's Astro.
Yes, it is.
Astro. There we go. The guy who wasn't born when the Jetsons came out.
Boom.
Comes up with that one.
Neither was I, old folks.
But the thing here is, you look at these things and you look at what do we do from an autonomous vehicle standpoint,
right.
And how are we going to get there? And without technologies like this, these things are just toys. So, Aram, how did you go about you had this concept.
Right.
We all get this right. How did you take, your vision, and Mr. Brien Johnson and I talk about vision a lot, right?
Well,
how did you take your vision to reality?
It is the year 2020, so we have a lot of vision.
Hey, woo, you are sharp. This is your day, I'm telling you.
Well, what I did was I contacted a very really successful development team, and believe it or not, they were not able to put their heads together on how to build my solution, and they wasted quite a bit of time developing and taking money, and they made me sign an agreement that I would never use their name if they gave me some of my money back. So I can't say their name, but this is a very big team that lied to me, and they said they could do it, and they failed miserably.
I know an attorney.
No, we've never seen that happen. We've never seen that happen, by the way.
Right. So I took some more quite a bit of time until I found my my team of 3 champions, as they say in the Silicon Valley, and these people not only they worked with me day and night to be able to do a lot of research. They threw a lot of technology at me, and basically like Lego pieces, I put some of these technologies together and said, okay, let's write it like this, let's build it like that. And we after a year of working nonstop, we have had some tremendous success. So whatever we did, however we put it together through endless hours, we now have a working product.
Fantastic. And again, that was partially most people would have quit after that first experience. They would have just
It was
said,
expensive. It was really expensive, and it was very. I was not only was I upset because my my solution, if my solution works, if and when it works, that means that I get to save lives. And so these people,
And you had that emergency background where you're working for Warner Brothers as the emergency person to save people's lives.
Yeah,
so you kind of
absolutely.
had that foresight.
Yeah, of course. And so so now, since I've been working with my 3 developers, what really struck at me first that really made the difference was these developers. They threw solutions at me, and they figured out ways how to.
Can I get their name, please?
I would love to, but basically,
no, personally.
the hardest thing to do in this industry, one of the hardest things to do, is to get excellent developers. And that's one of the biggest problems that tech companies face, is to getting these champions.
I've heard that before.
And I'm fortunate.
Yeah, we've heard that.
Yeah. So I was very lucky to get these 3. And so I will.
How did you find them?
How did I find them? Through a lot of research. Lot of research, and actually had gotten some guidance from previous companies that have had some success with their development. So I would look at companies that are actually successful right now and see where they got their developers from, if they would share that.
Yeah.
If they'll share it. You know, not everyone's going to share. That's kind of like a secret. We're going to be taking a break in about 10 seconds. So we're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back for the Ask Brien radio show on 1220 and 98.1 FM.
Beautiful. We're there? Yeah. Good. Okay. So that's great. No, I think that's really important, especially for the listeners, to hear that it just doesn't always go easy. It's not always easy. Everybody thinks. No, I think you need to say that, Peter. Or excuse me, Brian. I think you really need to say it. You need to put that in. People have this idea. Well, hey, let me think of what the next $1 billion idea was. It doesn't work like that. The inspiration comes from seeing a need and fulfilling the need. Every new product. I mean, again, I'll jump into my classic product development role, right? Every product that's out there that's been successful has come from a need. And my old mentor, Steve Jobs, used to say he would never ask people, what do you want? He would say, tell me what you do, and I'll tell you what you need. And that I never want you to tell me what you want, because your frame of mind of what you think it is. And again, like we were talking last time on the break, people think autonomous vehicles are just, hey, it just works. Like there's nothing to it, right? They don't realize the technology that goes behind it. Elon shows the Cybertruck, and now all of a sudden, the glass can't break, right? Okay. Well, Yeah, because he does what one of my old bosses I learned a lot from. He used to always say, "Don't believe your own headlines," and Elon doesn't get that. Yep, absolutely. As much as that's true. A long time. I've been building tech since the late '80s, early '90s. Yeah, he recruited me in Apple. Yeah, and I believe I've developed many products, including a $3 billion product line for Steve. That was fun. It was a good day. Yeah, it was okay. That was the Xserve, RAID, and Xband. If you Google Alex Grossman Apple, you'll see a lot of that stuff. You'll get please stay away, don't go near, danger, Will Robinson. You'll get all of that. The new one's great. Yeah, really. No, it's extremely well. It's extremely well written. I'm really impressed.
Welcome. Listen to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. And we have our co-host, Alex Grossman. I don't know what he's doing with the volume. He's trying to play a game or something. And our guest, Aram! Sorry that. Anyway, we were talking, and one of the points that came up during the break, because believe it or not, we don't just throw spitballs at each other. We actually think and talk during the breaks. And one of the things that came up I wanted to point out, Aram was just driving down the street one day, and he saw something happen, a car accident or motorcycle accident, and he decided we needed to figure out a way that doesn't happen again, or if it does happen again, to lessen the amount of times that happens. That was a great idea, and that was how it happened. It's not like you go into a room with a whiteboard and you say, hey, let's create something and make money. That's not how it happens. It can happen that way. That's kind of corporate stuff of basically just trying to create something that doesn't exist, create the need for it. Whereas the reality is most ideas, most successful and great ideas, have come about more along the lines of, whoa, what was that? That was not a great idea, by the way, of having the phone go like that. Basically, of just something happens, somebody says, you know what, we need to solve this problem, and let's figure out how to solve it. And then it becomes a success. And that's something that I wanted to point out to all the listeners to ask Brien. But and we don't have too much more time left. We have about 3.5 minutes. How did you, so you found these people, which amazing that you were able to find these people, and they spent 2 years working on it for you.
Right.
And how close are you from that point now to where this can actually get to market?
We are very close. In fact, right now I'm looking to acquire some clients. Once I acquire the clients, then I'll be able to modify the product to work for their user interface requirements and develop it with their own software.
But aren't there a lot of companies out there that have these autonomous vehicles? Aren't they working on the same thing that you are?
Well, they are working on everything, but what we're working on is one thing, and we're doing that one thing very well. Just like how Google worked on just search, and they fully worked on search, and that's why they are where they are today. And what we did was we're working on just one thing, and we're doing that one thing very well, fully undivided attention to this one detail. And that allowed us, perhaps that was the reason why we were able to attain so much success, because there are other companies that are trying to do this very same thing, but they, according to what they've said to me, they are not where we are today, based on our success rate and how we did that.
Now, so this notifies you, or identifies you, that there's an object or something nearby, correct?
A specified object nearby, not just any object.
How does it know what product, what object it is? Like, does it say, boom, 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 engineer, da, 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 da,
so
like
what our product does is it is able to differentiate in real time the difference between a car, a truck, a motorcycle, a scooter, a bicycle.
Well, that's got to be some type of AI, no?
There is some machine learning that is involved. So the way we built this and the way we wrote the code, so there's lots of different code out there, and that was also part of our dilemma is in which code are we writing this in. So and they all behave differently. So the code that we chose was not the right one in the beginning. And the team my second team we were able to figure out the right code and the right process of how to attain this. And lo and behold, it's working.
And how long have you been testing it?
We have been in testing, like the beta came out 2 months ago, and now we've been testing it ever since.
Now, what is the name of your company?
Tekken Mode.
Spell that.
TEKINMO.com. And if somebody has an interest in doing this, how would they reach you? They can send me an email or call me direct.
But I mean, that's the name. That's the website. But how would they reach you?
Oh, at my email at aram ARAM
okay. All right.
at tekkenmo.com.
You might be getting flooded now. I mean, the engineer's already using his iPhone like he uses every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
To check on the sports course. But that is a really amazing story. And really, if you look at this, you went from kickboxing to all these other ideas. You're driving down the street one day, coming home, and you come up with this great concept. And I'm really hopeful that for your success. I really think that it's going to be really, really great to go out and do something like this. And as I said, it comes from your original concept. What? Your first job. Warner Brothers, saving lives. Emergency. Now you're saving lives in a different way. And you may be way ahead of the learning curve. Anyway, my engineer is giving me an ugly upside down look like, that's it, folks. Oh, that's from Warner Brothers. That's all, folks. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM.